Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 3 of the Founder Fit podcast. My name is Damian. I have Scott to the right of me, and today we are going to be talking about a topic that got us fired up as we were planning what to talk about today, what we were going to deliver. And it is just, it's a topic that we've both been through, and it's close to our heart, and it's the true cost of not succeeding. Because like this topic, we talk a lot about discipline and habits and, all these things to break through. And, sometimes we just think that like success, like what is it? Money, a car, a holiday. But, a lot of us entrepreneurs, business owners, founders, that's not the only thing we're driven by. But then it's like, how long have we been in business? How long have we been going after our goals? And what's the true cost of not being disciplined, not actually succeeding? So we're going to dive into this because it's a huge topic, and we are not only leaving, thousands of dollars on the table by our lack of consistency, but, relationships, families, like you name it, there's so much more at stake. So we're going to dive into this. So yeah, the real question is, what is it truly costing you to stay stuck on where you are? So we're going to get into it. Big episode, guys.
Very good. Let's go. So yeah, we were actually talking about this morning. We have a bit of a flow, but we also like to be flexible as well. And I guess, like we spoke about last week, reflection. I'm constantly reflecting, and I guess what came up for me, and sparked this conversation this morning was, great, making money is fantastic, but also, like Damien just mentioned, what are the other things that lack of success is costing you? Because a lot of people just go straight to the money side. And again, like they say, money is up there with oxygen. Completely agree. Without it, you're in big trouble. But without relationships, you're in big trouble. Without your health, you're in big trouble. Without certainty, security, you're in big trouble. So success, and I like to look at it, and this is stealing from Tony Robbins. He calls it the wheel of life. I call it the 8 forces, and it's just a slightly altered representation or example of that. And it basically looks at all the different areas of your life, and there's 8. And we're not going to go into that today, but we're certainly going to talk about the areas that we are potentially neglecting. The idea behind this podcast is to simply trigger thought, or provoke thought, provoke consciousness. Because from what I've learned, that's what's lacking. Again, it goes back to our whole philosophy, which is 80% psychology, and only 20% of success or achievement is skill. And so ultimately, consciousness is the answer, or it's and again, this goes back, I think I mentioned the same thing. This goes back to Chinese philosophy, Confucius days, like consciousness, your ability to understand reality and to play within the rules effectively within reality. So what we're going to be really diving into is the pillars of success. And if we're not conditioned for success, it's not just costing us money, it's costing us many other things. And that's what we're going to dive in today. So I think it's a great topic of conversation. So back to you, Mr. Votta.
Yeah. And, the whole, like what Founder Fit is born and bred on is that idea, the 80%, the psychology. And we understand that a lot of people, the majority of us, we have great tactics, we have great strategies. But the thing that we failed to do is, just be consistent, is to stay focused on these things. So, Founder Fit, our whole philosophy here is to build the habits, build the discipline, build the structure back into the operator, which is you, to be able then to stay focused, to have the energy, to have the discipline, and create the habits and structures to go and execute the skills and the tactics that you already know work, or that already give a great return. I've been a health coach for 18 years, and even now more than ever, how we train athletes, and even the elite athletes at the top of their sport and their field, it's so simple. Like the structures and what we do is simple. When we look to business, how do businesses grow? How do we build teams? How do we, you know, make money, invest, and all that? It's actually very, very simple. So it's very clear that what is most likely the biggest problem in your business and in most businesses, it's the owner, the operator, and it's the psychology, right? We have these, we have our little bursts, we have our good months, but it's like we don't necessarily have a good year, right? For some people, they literally have 2 out of 7 days is good in their business, and that's enough to maintain. Imagine if you were like 7 out of 7 days, you were just, tuned in, locked in. So that's the biggest thing, is the true cost of what we're leaving on the table. And we also spoke about this a little bit last week, where we talk about, normal, right? Normal activities. And it's so easy to lower the standards, to lower that focus, because the world around us is not operating, anywhere close to their true potential. So it becomes very easy and very normal for us to think that, Friday night, I should just go out for dinner. And then Saturday, I'm going to switch off. And then Sunday is a relax on the couch day. And then it's, really Monday afternoon before we start to lock in a bit. And then we get overwhelmed and stressed. And it just creates a real vicious, super, super vicious cycle. So what is the difference between someone who then is I wouldn't say effortless, without effort, or making it effortless. I can't even say that properly. But it's their ability to just stay locked in, to stay focused. And this will always come back down to habits, their discipline, their psychology. It is so simple. We're just constantly going to keep repeating this message, because we've also experienced the true ROI, the return on this is just extreme. So what we will do later in the podcast is we're actually going to break down the exact frameworks that we use to help people and teach people in this as well, which is going to be really exciting. So Scott, what have you got to say then?
Very good. Well, so just to reiterate and also take a step back to what I was saying before, consciousness, it's understanding where your current psychology and what it is it's costing you. And I think that, again, in my own life, from coaching people and studying people, the thing that we're missing is that we don't actually, and this goes back to last week's episode, the reflection side of things. We actually don't know, we're not aware or conscious of what our inefficiency is actually costing us. We, as humans, and especially in the Western world, in the first, the first world sort of, and I'm assuming most of our listeners are coming from these sort of places, is that it's very easy to distract ourselves from reality. Because reality is, if I keep eating this way, in 20 years, I'm going to have some serious health problems. The reality is, if I don't take care of my finances, it's potentially going to lead to divorce. 87% of divorce these days, again, in the Western world, is due to financial pressure. But we don't see these things coming, right? We kind of just go day to day, moment to moment, and we're not really aware of our actions today and the results that they produce tomorrow, or next month, or next year, or next decade. And so what we really need to start to think about, and again, why we're doing this podcast weekly, why we've done this course, why we're here to coach you and support you, is because these aren't overnight questions and overnight solutions. They're not anything that's of magnitude, someone's life, a country, whatever it may be. It takes time to build things, and it also takes time to ruin things. Everything is directional. So the question that you need to ask yourself right now is, what direction am I heading in X, in my business, in my relationship, with my health, with my finances, with my children, with my partner, with my family, friends, hobbies, growth, whatever it may be, whatever, again, you feel that you want to focus on and conquer next. I don't suggest sort of doing everything at once, because I mean, it's up for debate, but it's probably not possible. What I suggest to my clients, myself, and what I study from others is that break it down, chunk it down. Like they say, how do you eat a whale? whatever Tony says, or Jim Rohn, I think, says this famously. It's like, you cut it up into pieces. How do you eat a whale? You cut it up, you chunk it down. That's how you don't eat it whole. Impossible. So the purpose of today's episode is we're going to start to ask those questions. And we're going to then later in this podcast or later in this episode, we're going to kind of break down a bit of strategy that you can apply. The idea is, let's give you some information. Let's switch on the lights in this regard, in this topic of conversation. And then let's actually use some practical steps that could potentially get us in momentum. And that's why we have the 7-day momentum challenge, because that's the idea of progress or success. Success. Success is not an overnight event, and it's certainly not it can't be done or undone overnight. It really is a compounding effect. And I feel like I'm repeating myself because I genuinely remember me saying this last episode, but even Damian just said it then. It's not, the idea is to not complicate the goal or the, again, success. I ask so many people, what is success? The first thing they go to is money. I just don't agree with that at all. I truly believe success, and this is from the great Tony Robbins, who's mentored me over the past decade, is that success is having that well-balanced sort of wheel of life. Your health's in order, your finances are in order, your relationships are in order, your hobbies are in order, your experiences, your impact is in order, you're giving back to, whether it's your family or your local community, you know what I mean? You're well-rounded in regard to the way that, whether you're religious or not, God designed it. And when you're well-rounded, you feel it. There's a sense of peace. There's a sense of fulfillment. It's not hype. It's not dopamine. It's not excitement. It's not jumping up and down. I'm happy. It's not even a lack of stress. Stress will be absent and peace will be at the forefront, and the feeling that you're experiencing. And in my opinion, what I've learned and what I'm studying from guys that have, money, guys and girls that have money and fame, once you've got those things, you actually see it with a lot of celebrities. They become suicidal or they end up in rehab, whatever it may be, because they're not at peace. They're not well-rounded. So the goal of Founder Fit is to ultimately get to that place where you're certainly at peace. And that to me is success. And again, you can't be at peace with health problems. You can't be at peace with relationship problems. You can't be at peace with financial problems. So you must take care of all these areas. So what we'll go through very soon is how to attack that. But the first question that we want to, I guess, get across in the introduction of this episode is, are you aware of what you are not doing that is creating the pain that you may be aware of or not aware of? Like, do you know if you've got if you're in a relationship right now and it's challenging, there's a lot of friction there, are you aware of why? Or in your business, do you wake up every day stressed going to work or getting involved in your business? Or do you go to it in a peaceful, positive, optimistic mindset that you've actually got control of your future and your business? Because if you don't, and you're not aware of it, that's what today is about.
Huge. And I guess like when we think of awareness, like whether you're aware or not aware, what does this generally mean? Well, it means if you're not aware of something, you're just not, really educated around it. And that's totally fine, because what you don't know, you don't know. But we're going to dive into it right now, because we're going to bring some education. We're going to bring some awareness, right? Because when we're thinking, whether you're building, so right now you're at the start of your journey and you were trying to create something, you're trying to build a business, you're trying to create that success, financial freedom, whatever it is. The question also is, if you achieve that, how long do you want to keep it, right? Something I always say as a health coach, people want to lose weight. You want to lose the weight. Well, how long do you want to keep it off for? So we got to also factor in sustainability, right? We want to become successful and we want to keep success. So we have to bring awareness to the principles, right? The principles of what it takes to be successful. Not only will this help you build it, but it's going to help you keep it. And like, to our point, people get there, right? But the rest of the world is imploding, right? Because they fail to do these things. So if you again are in that build up phase, or if you're now, at that point where, you're feeling stressed, burnt out, overwhelmed, right? We're going to come back to, right, a lot of the basic principles, right? And this is what we teach in our course, in the Founder Fit course. And these aren't principles that we came up with, right? This is in line with humans, right? We got to take care of this body. We have a brain, we have a body, we have, physiology, we have psychology, we have emotions, right? That's why mastering this thing is not easy, right? It is a challenging thing, but we have to understand how we operate. And once we can understand how we operate, we just got to be in line with it. And everything is gonna, you're gonna get healthier, you're gonna feel better, right? Work, you're gonna feel, no, I'm gonna dive into it because I can keep carrying on. But let's look at some of the framework, all right? Now, these are the things, I've taken these directly from our course, right? Because we have created, literally, we have a 7-day momentum challenge. And we also have a 28-day challenge for those people who really want to attack it. So I've taken some of these points directly from our 28-day course. We're going to share them with you now. But these are the things that we dive into with all of our clients to master each of these things, like not all at once, one by one, right? But even a few of these done well create a huge change, let alone, if we really start to go over all of them. So I haven't gone through all 28, by the way, but these are some of the ones that are really important that you can take away right now, start to use and start to instantly start to see some massive change. So part of the framework, right, is daily reflection. We had a whole episode. If you haven't seen that episode, it was episode 2 where we talk about reflection. But reflection is like journaling, reflecting on the day prior, what went well, what didn't, reflecting in the morning, setting up your day, right? Reflection is such a powerful habit, right? It's not a thing you just do every now and then, right? But sometimes we reflect, once the divorce has happened, right? And go, oh, what happened? But if we can reflect along the way, business, relationships, everything, this habit alone automatically just puts you in the top tier, right? Top tier. And no, it's so simple to do, but as we know, what is easy to do is easy not to do as well. Another key thing that we do, and this is what I love, an organized environment. Yes, I'm going to say it, right? You got to have a clean environment, because what does our environment, really reflect? It reflects what's on the inside of us, what's in our brain. If we are chaotic in our thoughts, not organized in our thinking, well, typically your space is going to be the same. And it's so clear and obvious. You might have had a friend, whether, you go into their car, right? And there's just rubbish everywhere. There's bottles. The thing hasn't been cleaned in like months, right? Like what kind of snapshot does that give of the person? Now, it's not always meaning that person is totally the worst and unorganized. But again, it's like, if you go to their house is probably a little bit messy. So then their business must be a little bit messy. Their admin must be a little bit messy. How they're managing their team. It's just how you do, anything is how you do everything. So, when we talk about an organized environment, if you are someone who feels like, I'm a little bit stressed and, I'm finding it hard to manage things, where do I start? Do I start having those 10 conversations with everyone? No, literally, like, go clean your cup, like go clean your house, go clean your work desk, create that calmness around you first. Then you become calmer in your thinking. Now, all the decisions you make, you're guaranteed are going to make much better decisions. So I know me and Scott, like, that's one great thing I noticed was a trait of both of us is, we're both, fairly organized.
OCD.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. There's a point where it can be too much, I guess. But but we like things in order, don't we?
They have to be.
Yeah.
It's a non-negotiable.
And it's like how it's the best feeling too when just things work. When and it also means, I guess, when you have a very organized space, it means you are like, I know for me, it's like I am observing my environment and I am putting things in a certain spot because they have a job to do. There's an intent behind everything I do. I don't just sort of throw it in the corner there, throw it over there. So that alone, that skill of thinking about your space, thinking about things around you and how they work and operate to create efficiency, right? In now my day, like if I need to go cook food or do something, I'm not wasting time. But again, it becomes a habit that transfers. I know like anyone that I work with directly one-on-one, I'm very organized when it comes to, our meetings, like even the podcast, we do our session notes. It's like, everything's like in order as it should be. Yes, there's always going to be some uncontrollables in your life. Like Scott's got 2 kids. Like you can imagine, like things aren't always super clean with kids. But again, you have to have again still organization in your mind. So your environment, right? Your environment just becomes a reflection of that. Okay, another point here. So when we're talking like mental, fitness frameworks here, like this is one that it's like nowadays is a huge problem. And me being a health coach, especially, nutrition, right? Like what you are eating. Now, if you're someone who's in fit and in shape, like you're going to resonate with this, and you might be doing really well. But if you're someone that doesn't really take care of the food they eat, you're eating fast food, you're not eating like really much at all. You're only eating like one meal a day, and then that one meal that you do eat, you just buy it again. Like, hope not you're buying it from any sort of fast food chain. But if we got to look to the fuel that goes into our body, because if we're not getting the nutrients, the macros, the micros, hydration, right? Again, we're not talking about like, just this idea of succeeding is this synthetic thing. We're talking about how do we, a human, right, succeed. So if you can't have good nutrition, right, then the thing like your body, right, the thing that's responsible for making decisions, for handling stress, for operating, for like let's call it 16 hours a day, for doing all of these tasks, it just simply will not function. So again, you could be leaving so much on the table, like so much, again, inefficiency, which is going to result in your business not growing, you not even having the energy to just show up to your business as the best version of yourself. So it could literally start, just by getting some fruit, getting some good quality meat, having a smoothie. If this is something that you just have no real awareness around, this can give you like such a big return in every area of your life, big time. All right, we're gonna go on to the next one. I'm gonna get Scott to go through some of these ones as well.
So the framework, like Damian said, does come from the 28-day course, and we're just touching on a couple here. And it's a combination. Again, a lot of people, I think, what I've noticed is that they certainly have their strengths and their highlights, whether they're great with finances, they usually lack in their health. Again, I'm speaking sort of macro and generally here, but statistically, this is also proven. People a lot of invest so much time in their business and make a lot of money, but forget their health. So what we're explaining here, what Damian's going over, is essentially how do you get going back to the 8 forces, or whatever you want to call it, but it's basically trying to balance out these areas of your life rather than just, I guess, focusing heavily on one, getting a result there and neglecting the rest. So a couple more points here is we've just done the daily reflection, the organized environment, again, those two, huge effect. You then add on great nutrition into this. You're compounding that once again. Then the next one is exercise. Do you have a solid exercise routine? And again, we're not talking about being a triathlete or a high rocks champ or a bodybuilder or powerlifter. We're talking about really basic fundamentals that keep the body healthy. That's essentially what we're about. This is not about abs or Instagram booty shots or anything like that. This is, where is your health? Not how good do you look on camera, but where is your health? Like, that is ultimately the question we all need to be asking. On top of that is a quality morning routine. You need to ask yourself the question, what is your morning routine like? Is it cemented to give you performance and results? Or is it scattered and reaction based on the feelings or the mood or the environment? Are you controlling your environment to set you up for success, or is your environment in control of you and leading you down the path, whichever is basically what the environment is sort of offering you? like Damien said, kids, they can easily throw spanners in the work, but are you putting in systems, controls, principles, boundaries, whatever it is that you want to call it, to make sure even the kids don't necessarily run the show? And it's something that's, as a young parent, I see a lot of now. I see the kids in control of the parents these days. And I'm not the only one saying this. This is fact. Go back 50 years, it was, sort of shut up, don't be heard. And again, I'm not saying that, but we're now 50 years later where the kid is, throwing tantrums because it's addicted to the iPad and sugar, and the parent is bowing down, and that's naturally having an effect on the environment. So anyway, it's an interesting one because again, my oldest is 4, so I'm 4 years into this journey, and it's interesting. It can throw a massive spanner in the works and disrupt everything, or if done right, like anything else, it can actually add a lot of value to the environment once again. Moving on from that is daily affirmations. What are you, not just daily affirmations, yes, daily affirmations, but the question becomes is, what are you saying to yourself consistently? Oh shit, I'm no good at that. I forgot about that. I'm terrible at that. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at tech. I don't know how to do this. I don't like sales. Oh, my partner's this, my partner's that. Like, what are you saying? Because I actually was reading yesterday some old stuff from Jim Rohn, and it's, again, it's true. It's like your mind is a garden. What are you planting? Because whatever you plant, it's coming up. If you talk badly about your partner, whether it's a joke or not, that will manifest within the relationship. If you talk poorly about your skills within your business or your team member, whatever it is, if you're just putting out negative energy into vibrations into the world, it will show up. And I know that's a bit woo-woo for a lot of people, but ultimately it's true. Like there's as much science as you need for that to convince you, whether you're interested in looking into it or not. But long story short is, check that. Moving on, couple more is creating routines. So spoke about it, kind of touched on it, is a systematic focus towards your life and the way that you execute. What sort of, do you have a routine for your health? Do you have a routine for your morning? Do you have a routine for your sales training? Do you have a routine for your marketing and optimization? Do you have routines for your R&D? Do you have routines to develop new products? Going on from there is goal setting. And again, this is a mixed match of what you'll find in the 28 days. But another one we focus heavily on is goal setting. How do you create the future in advance is ultimately what goal setting is. It's not like set my goals, New Year's, once off. No, it's constant and never ending reflection on the things that you want to create and writing them down and focusing on them so they genuinely become an object of reality if you put the work in and the focus in simultaneously. It's, everything that the camera that was, that we're filming this through, the microphone that we're talking through was once an idea, was once a goal. So again, if you focus on things long enough, hard enough, and put the action in, funny enough, they come to light. So the last one there is meditation. We spoke about this in reflection, and I found meditation extremely hard. I've always been quite over the top energetically, and sitting still was one of the hardest things that I could literally do. But what it's done and what I've learned over time is that it is the ultimate tool for reflection. So I'll end on that, but you don't necessarily have to do meditation. I would also go meditation/journaling. It's the best, from what I've found, from what I've read, it is one of the best reflection tools out there. And like we say, it's free.
Totally.
Back to you.
Well, so there are so many points here that we have just covered. Now, each of these, what are they truly, truly designed to do? And, I believe that, and this is true fact, once again, is you will never outperform who you believe you are. Okay, I'm going to say that again. You will never outperform who you believe you are. And when we look at all of these frameworks that we have just gone over, what are we doing if we focused on each of them? And if we made improvements in all of these areas, some of these areas, but let alone all of them, is we actually create a shift in our identity. And once again, it's if you believe, like, again, oh, I'm just no good at business, and, business is hard work and it just never works out for me. Like, potentially you might have been saying all that. You might have been saying that for the last 5 years. Now, if that becomes your identity, right, then you are always going to act in line to who you truly believe you are. But when we can start to break apart that subconscious programming, those belief systems, and they're hard to do. And, I guess as you get a bit older, they get harder and harder to change. But that's why you got to, like I was saying before, you can't eat the whale in one bite. You got to break it down. And this is what we're doing. We're breaking us down so we can start to make improvements in all these areas. And if we start to do this little improvement in nutrition, little improvement exercise, little improvement to what we are taught, how we talk to ourselves every day, we actually then get the change in who we believe we are. So now you might be someone, who's like, everything's hard and, I've been struggling with business, but you've worked on this for, let's call it 28 days. You give it, a few months, right? Now you start to shift your identity. You're like, no, I can do this. I do believe I am going to succeed. And that ultimately is like the biggest difference, because someone who believes, they can or they can't are both typically right. So that's the biggest change, the biggest shift. And you would have seen it potentially in yourself. You've had experiences. You would have seen it with friends, right? And it's always sort of interesting, because if you truly think right now, I reflect on this all the time. Sometimes I will go like, where am I right now? And I'm like, why aren't I potentially where I want to be? And if I have that true conversation, it's like, well, I'm actually achieving everything that I'm focusing on, and like, that's the reality. And you can probably, if you have a really deep conversation with yourself, think truly, go, what is it who do I truly believe I am? And what am I truly actually want? Like, yes, we'd all love tens of millions of dollars and various things, but no, like, who do I believe I am and what do I actually want? And you're probably living exactly in line with that. Whether it comes with the struggles and some good things, but it's so obvious. It's so obvious. So we have to upgrade the identity. And this is the power of it. So, and that is why, like, there's another saying. It's like, if you get $1 million, you best become a millionaire real quick, or else you will lose the money. It's because, and that's why we see with like lottery winners is, let's call it like, lower class people as an example. And if they get, tens of $millions just won instantly, and this has happened so many times, they end up losing all the money and go back to being exactly where they were. Why? Because they didn't become a millionaire. They didn't then become the person that had the financial discipline, that understood what to do with all the money. So same with you here. You could just be every single day, like, and we all do this, you could be on YouTube just trying to find the new thing, the new hack, just trying to find that tactic, that skill that apparently is going to make you all this money. But we're just neglecting ourselves the whole time. And the results would already be in your life. You've probably been doing the same thing for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and you're still getting the same result. Why? Because you're still thinking the same identity is still there. And this was a point that I made here. And this can be also the danger with this. The longer it goes and the longer you sort of stay stuck in this identity. And I say it all the time. We work with people to do this, is you can then become addicted and attached to that version, right? The version that, we understand that business is tough. It's hard and we sort of love it. We love a challenge. But then at what point do we get stuck in I just like the challenge? I'm always in startup mode. Like, that could be, you start a business, you go through all the hard work, you build it. And then before it actually gets to, the success, the financial reward, is you go on to the next business and then the next one and the next one and the next one, because you just love the grind. You love the hustle, and that becomes your identity. There's always a reason why that didn't work and why this one will. And people just go through it 10 years, 15 years. And, And as we talk about, what's the true cost? And I've done this myself. I've made these mistakes. I'll tell you what some of the true costs can be. Like it can be your relationship. Like I've been engaged twice, and if I reflect on, the stress that I was under, that I put into my relationship and the environment that I created, it's like sort of no wonder why, that relationship started then to have dysfunction. And, I wasn't living up to my end. I wasn't then being the provider, the person that could just take care of the relationship, potentially create a space that, we could have kids and a family, because I was just always in hustle, hustle, hustle mode. So, these like I could talk about this for a long time, but it's like, these are the true costs, right? Of, just not reflecting and not actually looking at the bigger picture and going, geez, like, and it's ultimately, and this is, where I've come to, and why we break down everything is because you can't just expect anyone else to do anything for you. You have to take full, complete control and responsibility for every area in your life. And, I always say this too, whether it's like, your morning routine. Oh, well, it's just a morning routine. Who cares? It's like, it's, if you approach it, being lazy, like it doesn't matter, there'll be lots of other things that you're going to approach the same way. And before you know it, you're not changing. You're just staying stuck. So you really have to break down everything that will create efficiency and will help optimize you as a human and operator. So some big points there.
Very good. All right. Well, to wrap this up, guys, we spoke about those points that you can start to look at. And again, it comes back to the questions. Tony Robbins, the great Tony Robbins. Quality of your life is basically comes down to the quality of questions that you can ask, because the quality of questions will lead to, terrible question, terrible answer, quality question, quality answer. How is my morning routine serving me right now? It's a good question. Well, I don't have one. Okay, well, that's showing up in ABC ways. So again, it's very simple stuff. The challenge is, well, first of all, we're not taught it. This isn't a school subject. They don't teach it at uni. And, if depend on where you come from, lower, middle, or upper class, the conversations are very different within the families. And usually the middle and the lower class, they're not having these conversations around health and, all this, I guess, quite, call it high level, but, and people say that this is high level. I don't like to look at it like that. I like to look at it, the fundamentals for life, like whether it's low level, high level, regardless. These are the fundamentals that everyone, regardless of your socioeconomic or your background or your education, these are the fundamentals that everyone must take care of, because it's not just about making money. It's about, once again, going back to that balanced and fulfilled life that doesn't have all these problems that are created through lack of consciousness. Again, health is a simple one. Your lack of understanding of nutrition, or basic nutrition, in 20, 30 years could lead to what we're seeing right now: heart problems, diabetes, strokes. Like, if you look at the direction, and I won't go on this, I won't go too long on this because I will tie it back. But if you look at the direction of health within Western society right now, which direction is it going? Is it getting better or is it getting worse? It's getting dramatically worse. One stat that blows my mind, and this goes back to all the questions around vaccines right now and what's happening in the US, but just being unconscious of the vaccines that the government is peddling. 1970, 1 in 30,000 kids had autism. Today, 1 in 17, and they are linking it to vaccines. Now, again, I don't want to, it's probably the wrong thing to say right now for the algorithm, but again, I'm not telling people what to do. I'm asking them to ask good questions. And again, that comes back to health. But to wrap it up and to, I guess, just touch on for the last thing, that the identity. And ultimately, if you do join our challenge, and I strongly suggest that you do, because what it ultimately comes down to is what Damian said, and we haven't really touched on it yet, but it's a good time, is identity. Again, the great Tony Robbins says, we will always stay consistent with who we believe that we are, aka our identity. And so what does that essentially mean? If we don't think we're good at technology, we will avoid technology. If we don't think that we're good at business, then we will avoid business. If we don't think that we're good at sales, we'll avoid sales. If we don't think that we are good with, we can't find the right person, then we won't find the right person. Long story short, your identity is shaping your life. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that we need to look at the identity. We need to look at the identity, reverse engineer what it's currently getting you, and rewrite the identity where you want to improve in those certain areas. Again, you could have a kick-ass business but terrible health. Okay, we'll continue the identity that you've basically created for yourself consciously or unconsciously, and let's look at the identity around health. I don't have time for that. I don't like that. I don't know about that. That's expensive. That's inconvenient. Whatever it is, there's something within your identity, if your health is poor, that is not serving you. So without going deep into that, that is what the challenge is for. That's what we are here for. That is what we are as coaches are here to help you with. It is understanding, first of all, your identity as a whole, where it's serving you, because that's extremely important. We want to use those laws and those rules, but where it's not serving you, where are those areas in your life right now, you know them, that are painful, that are costing you, and you know it, you feel it, you wake up stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, and you know that they're costing you. And they're not just costing you money. What else are they costing you? Are they costing you relationships? Are they costing you time? Are they costing you your peace? Are they costing you friendships, relationships? Like, the true cost is not just money. So have a think about that, because ultimately that's the answer that we want to, or that's the question that we're constantly pursuing, is how do we solve these painful problems within our lives using the fundamentals that God gave us. So, sorry, that is it from me, guys. Thank you very much for tuning into this episode. Over to you to wrap it up.
So really now, with all this information, and now that we've brought a lot more awareness to your mind, and we've got a bit more education out there, the next thing to do is just take action. Okay. So what are some ways that we can clearly take action right now? So you can just take what you learned today and apply it straight away. You can start to make improvements in all areas of your life, guaranteed, with what we covered today, right? What we also have is we have the Founder Fit 28-day challenge, right? So we have a whole course where we go through not only the frameworks we spoke about today, but we have 28 days of courses, modules. You get support, you get us in there, you get everything. That's for people who really want to go next level, take a lot of action, and really, work on all these areas really intensely. So you can do that by going to the description below. It's in there somewhere, at founder.fit, right? You can book in a call. You'll get on a call with myself. We're going to break it down. We're going to see where you're at. We're going to put a plan together. And if you're not sort of ready for that call yet, or diving into that, actually on the website, we also have a free download. We have the Breakthrough Playbook, where we also give you some more frameworks, principles, some things that are going to help you make some great progress in your life as well. So we're here to serve, we're here to help you. And more importantly, it's about, changing that identity and just living an abundant life. So guys, thanks for tuning into today's episode.
Can I say one more thing?
Scott's got one more thing to say. Let's
one more thing, because you've triggered me, as you always do, in a good way. But the 28-day challenge, it's yes, it's a challenge, yes, it's a course, but ultimately it is a blueprint for conditioning. And again, between us 30 years of coaching and proving it within our own lives, we know what works and what doesn't. And so the number one question that I want you to walk away with today, that you need to ask yourself, is what is it costing you to not take action? Because in this world of procrastination and Netflix and Instagram and Uber Eats, it is so easy to cover up the pain. But the pain is where the problem lies, and it's where you need to put your attention. So my question for you is, where is that pain? What is that pain in your life? What problem do you need to sort out before it gets so bad, before it ends in a major health issue, a divorce, a bankruptcy, the things that are avoidable. If you see the iceberg, if you see that, if you're the Titanic and you see it, I don't know, again, I don't know that story, but in detail, but if they saw it, 50 mile before they did see it, maybe the Titanic would not have hit that iceberg. They saw it too late. So the question to you is, are you going to leave it till when it's too late, or are you going to take action now?
That's it, guys. Good question there to leave you on. We're going to see you on the next episode. And thank you once again for tuning in. Peace.